This review of the Traitors, the final, 2025, touches on a mix of missed opportunities, predictable outcomes, and unsatisfying twists that seem to deflate what could have been a truly memorable conclusion. The season had all the ingredients for an exciting finale, but, in the end, the emotional and strategic payoff didn't land as expected. Let's break down what worked, what didn't, and why the finale ended up feeling so flat. Point 1. The Charlotte twist, a missed opportunity. The season's most promising storyline, Charlotte's brilliant gameplaying and hidden Welsh accent, was a great setup for a jaw-dropping reveal. Fans had been eagerly anticipating the moment when Charlotte's false persona would crack, much like Kaiser Soze in The Usual Suspects, where the limp drops and the true mastermind is exposed. However, producers decided to throw in a late twist by introducing the seer, giving Frankie the ability to discover Charlotte's traitor status in a one-on-one meeting. While the twist was meant to heighten the drama, the execution was problematic. The rules around what Frankie was supposed to do with this information were murky, leaving viewers a bit confused. Frankie stormed into the breakfast room the next day with a thunderous expression, announcing Charlotte's betrayal with little context. This created a chaotic shift in the game, leaving Charlotte scrambling to turn the tables. Charlotte, who had played a near-perfect game up to that point, found herself flailing under the pressure, ultimately reducing what could have been a moment of shocking revelation into an unsatisfying, anticlimactic downfall. It felt like the producers had meddled with the format just enough to rob us of the payoff we'd been waiting for. Point 2. The new rules. Low stakes and flat tension in this season's finale. The Traitors producers also decided to change how contestants revealed their roles at the end. In previous seasons, the big reveal involved contestants stating whether they were faithful or traitor as they were eliminated, adding an extra layer of suspense. This time, however, contestants' true roles were withheld until the end of the game. While this may have been intended to keep the audience guessing, it ultimately did little to raise the stakes or deepen the drama. As the eliminations rolled out, it became clear that the tension had started to dissipate. The rules around how eliminations were handled felt like a missed opportunity, adding very little to the suspense. As a result, the final four, Frankie, Alexander, Jake, and Leanne, felt like a relatively underwhelming group. The focus shifted less to their gameplay and more to their personal backstories, making the outcome feel more like a foregone conclusion than a suspense-filled climax. Point 3. Leanne versus Frankie. A lackluster final showdown. The showdown between Leanne and Frankie in the final moments further drained the excitement. Leanne, who had been a dominant and often abrasive personality throughout the game, made a surprising decision to banish Frankie, even after a heartfelt speech about motherhood and their shared experiences. It seemed like a dramatic moment, but the lack of real emotional connection between the two contestants made it feel hollow. Frankie, for her part, seemed less like a competitor and more like someone who had just run out of gas. Leanne's victory over Frankie felt underwhelming. The way she asked Jake why he wasn't making eye contact with her right before the final reveal seemed more like a filler moment than an intense question that would determine their fate. The whole exchange felt forced, and the final reveal of the faithfuls winning, Leanne and Jake sharing the 94,600 pounds pot, was more anticlimactic than anything else. Point 4. The final two. Were they worthy winners? Were Leanne and Jake worthy winners? It's complicated. Jake was a solid, likable player who had a clear, early read on the traitors, particularly when he correctly identified Linda as a traitor early on. His strategy was sharp, and he was a decent guy, someone who viewers could root for, especially when his personal backstory about his cerebral palsy came into play. His intention to spend the money on his parents was a sweet touch, adding a layer of emotional depth to his victory. Leanne, on the other hand, was often seen as shouty and confrontational. While she did allude to some personal hardship, particularly in her desire to use the money for IVF, her often aggressive, argumentative nature turned off many viewers. Her interactions with others lacked subtlety and finesse, and by the time she reached the final two, her personality had become more abrasive than appealing. The way she banished Frankie, after the latter's emotional speech, showed a lack of connection or genuine camaraderie, which made her win feel less earned. Together, their win left a somewhat bitter aftertaste. It wasn't that they were unworthy winners, but their victory didn't carry the same emotional weight or strategic brilliance that some previous seasons had delivered. By the end, their win felt less like a satisfying culmination of a brilliant game and more like a by-the-numbers outcome. Point 5. Comparing to last year. Why this felt flat when comparing this season's finale to last year's, where Harry's brutal betrayal of the sweet, innocent Molly had viewers on the edge of their seats. It's easy to see why this year felt so lackluster. The Traitors format thrives on the high-stakes drama of trust and betrayal, and last year's finale was a thrilling, emotional roller coaster. In contrast, the 2025 finale lacked that emotional spark. The twists felt more like filler than exciting plot points, and the final decisions left viewers cold rather than shocked. The BBC's follow-up program, The Traitors, Uncloaked, added a little extra drama by revealing Charlotte's fake Welsh accent to the other contestants. But by then, the magic of her strategic brilliance had already been lost. It was a victory for the faithfuls, but it felt like we were missing the crucial moment where we, as an audience, could truly feel invested in the outcome. Point 6. The production. Well executed, but lacking spark on a technical level, the season was still very well produced. Claudia Winkleman was the perfect host, striking a balance between serious commentary and cheeky camp, and the editing maintained its typical sharpness. But the lack of tension, combined with the failure to capitalize on key character moments, meant the show ultimately didn't deliver the emotional impact we've come to expect. The show is still a fascinating exploration of human behavior, how people judge others, how they can convince themselves that they're right even when they're wrong, and how far manipulation can go. But when the ultimate payoff feels hollow, even the most well-executed production can't compensate for the lack of real stakes. Point 7. The final verdict, a disappointing denouement in the end. The Traitors, 2025, failed to deliver the kind of gripping finale that fans were hoping for. The twists were either unclear or underwhelming, and the final two winners, while not undeserving, didn't offer the kind of satisfying conclusion that made us feel like the journey was worth it. The decision to reward the faithfuls felt flat, especially in comparison to previous seasons. The Traitors remains a fascinating show, but this season's finale lacked the spark that makes it so thrilling. It was a victory for the faithful, sure, but with all the emotional highs and lows we've come to expect from the show, it felt more like an anticlimax than a triumph.